Hello there, folks. I'm Dan Brown from Sort of Interesting, and today you're joining me in the Banana Box studio for one of my model railway building updates. So, we're going to see loads and loads of footage of my actual model railway. Don't worry, it's not all going to be this and this. Exciting background, I know. And basically, it's now 3 months and 1 day since I first opened the box on my original Hornby Railway starter set, which was a West Coast Highlander set. It had one locomotive, 4 wagons and 1 oval of track with 1 little siding. And well, over the last 3 months, we've gone from that to this. So this is what it looks like right now. It may make some of you think, oh, is that all he's done? It may make some of you think, oh, fair dues, he's done a little bit more than I expected. Now, what I do want to say is, I wouldn't say any area of what you're seeing is complete as it stands. It's one of those things, I suppose this is really what I want to talk about in this particular video diary, and that's the joy and what I've enjoyed of putting this stuff together. Right then, folks, I'm going to interrupt the beginning of this video here to say, as I forgot to say it in the original edit, please do consider checking out my specific model railway channel if you're interested in seeing more of these video clips and specific videos about all of the things that are on the layout. Also, feel free to like the new Sort of Interesting Trains Facebook page. You'll find a link to the Sort of Interesting Trains YouTube channel and the Facebook page in the description below. Right then, please do excuse how bright red I am. I've been out in the cold all day, and I also am in dire need of a shave, but luckily I'm blonde so you can't really tell. Right, onto the video. Subscribe and all that sort of stuff. Right, let's get stuck in. So, in my first video I mentioned the sort of almost the therapeutic, meditative nature of just being sat listening to podcasts and building my Metcalfe cardboard buildings and things like that. And there's something just so nice about working with actual physical things in the modern age where everything's done on computers and all that sort of stuff. I really can't tell you how much I enjoy being almost the fact that it is limited by the physical world and the physical reality of this track's got to go here and you've only got this amount of bend or this amount of room to work in, and here's these buildings to make the industrial zone in the centre, and you've got to make sure that everything fits around there. You can't just magically make it another 5 foot wide if it needs to be. And it's that sort of creative process of, I know that this isn't like I'm creating an amazing work of art or even a really amazingly competent bit of modelling, but it's something that I really enjoy, like sort of coming up against the different challenges. And as I was building the Metcalfe buildings to go in the industrial section, starting to think, these are actually taking up a lot more room, and then deciding, do I want to get another one to go in as a bit of a factory building, or should I leave it how it is? So what I think I'm going to do over the next couple of weeks is basically get that cardboard tarmac base, really muck it up and add a load of just grime and stuff, really, just so that it all looks like it's worn and weathered and got tyre marks on it and mud and all that sort of stuff, so it looks like an actual working environment rather than this pristine set of tarmac sheets, basically. And basically what I'm intending to do there is have the buildings probably how they're laid out, give or take at the moment, but in some of the open space, instead of adding another building and making it all crowded and jumbled up there, I'm going to have like a bit of an outdoor storage area with maybe people working and, I don't know, a load of pallets and barrels and just generally a little working scene to go inside that central part, rather than it just being a series of buildings with a couple of vehicles parked outside. So it's that sort of stuff and those tiny little challenges and thinking, well, being able to actually come up with something and think, this might be a good idea, that might be a good idea, and then seeing whether it actually comes together and changing things as you go. So I've got to say, at 3 months and 1 day into this project, I am probably more motivated to continue work on it than I've been ever at any point. Originally, obviously, I have the excitement and the interest of seeing everything for the first time and figuring out how it's all going to go together. But as you start to learn a little bit more, and as I say, at 3 months in, I don't claim to be a competent modeller, don't claim to know anything about building these models or electronics or anything whatsoever, but I know more now than when I started, which was absolutely nothing, basically. So it's all, like you say, just that ongoing creative process that I've really enjoyed. And as I say, putting together these cardboard buildings, I mentioned in the first video that I thought they were really great value. I mean, the big buildings have been about £14 each, give or take. And firstly, I think for what you get compared to the resin models, that's excellent value, and literally a third of the price, maybe even less, of some of the resin sort of equivalent buildings. Then you've got the fact that they're really good quality, just of their own, sort of just on their own merits, not comparing them to anything. They're really good looking buildings with a lot of detail and different layers around the windows and things like that. And then the final thing is, as well as being low cost but high quality, you get the enjoyment of actually putting them together. And as I've bought more and more, I think I said again in the first video that I'm probably going to end up buying some of the Metcalfe buildings that won't really have a home on my layout, just because I've enjoyed putting them together so much. And I'd say easily you're talking probably about 7 hours average build time for those bigger buildings. And again, just those buildings there, you can start to see, if say there's 5 of them, is there? Let's think off the top of my head. We've got the little signal box, we've got the gatehouse and the boiler house, we've got the goods shed and the warehouse, and then a few other assorted buildings. That's 4 main buildings, I suppose, and a few others dotted around. But there, if you say that's 7 hours per build, that immediately is making you get up to nearly 30 hours of enjoyment and construction time. And then obviously when you start looking at the rest of the thing, just simple stuff like trying to put the little bits of lichen around, and I've been buying little static grass strips to go between the front, basically you'll probably see it on the screen now, but where the railway lines both run very closely together, I filled in the gap in between those 2 sections of line with a little bit of ballast style matting, and then put a few strips of 6mm static grass, so it's like a tuft of wild grass growing up in the middle of the tracks, and then putting little extra bits here and there, and just in some cases getting the smallest little bit streaks of lichen and peeling them off and gluing them to different parts, just to add tiny little bits of detail, which again, I'm not saying this is an amazingly detailed or realistic layout, certainly not the way that it is at the moment, but it's that sort of tiny, slow, not necessarily painstaking, but almost sort of requiring a bit more concentration than just doing it without thinking. It's that thing of, well, you can do as much of that sort of detail work as you want. You can get as nitty-gritty and detailed as you really want and start doing really amazing things that I've seen people do online. Or you can just do a little bit like I do it, and just every so often I'll sit down maybe for half an hour, maybe an hour, sometimes maybe more if I get distracted and into it, and just fiddle around with different places of, oh, do I want to put a few trees here? Nah, that's a bad idea, and then take them all up. And so yeah, it's something I'm really, really enjoying doing. I've got to say, I'm so glad that I thought, you know what, I've wanted a train set all my life, I'm just going to do it, I'm just going to get it, and I'm going to take the time to build it, and I'm not going to set a specific time limit of when I want it to be done for. In all honesty, it's one of the best hobbies I've ever been involved with. And as I say, the fact that after 3 months and hours and hours and hours of work, sometimes getting annoying if I couldn't get things to work right, or if I realised I needed an extra bit of track that I didn't have and had to wait till the next day, and all of that sort of stuff, and the general trials and tribulations of learning anything from scratch and getting into any hobby. But really, it's been almost non-stop great fun, and as you see it start to come together, and you can sort of then think, oh yeah, right, well, I'll work on that, and then that can lead straight into this section. It starts to give you more motivation, or at least in my case, I feel, rather than my motivation going down as I've spent more time doing it, it's given me more ideas and made me want to get to work more, to get stuck into different pieces. And as I say, at some point I want to get down to adding in human scenes to it and putting different pieces and different little things, like a little railway yard that I'm going to have between the industrial area and the signal box. So that's all going to be a really grimy section of grass, as if it's all gone muddy and worn away, with little cranes and stuff like that operating in it. And all of this is still before I even get to my main event, which is going to be an extra oval of track, or an extra half an oval of track, that's going to lead to a canal section and a little wharf and loading bay. So again, there's so much stuff to do, but I'm really looking forward to doing it, more so than even when I started. But what I will say is that compared to when I first started, I already was planning and preparing that this was going to be a very long-term project that would go on for months and months into 2018. Now, even though, as I say, I'm more motivated than ever, I also am more realistic that this is going to be a project that's going to go on for even longer than I thought. And it's, I suppose, part of the fun of taking that time to do it properly and to say, well, what's the rush? What have I possibly got to try and rush or frantically get this done as quick as possible? And it is giving myself the time to just sit down and enjoy it. And some days I might sit down and just tinker around and not really achieve anything in an hour, but it's the actual enjoyment that's the whole point of the project, rather than going, right, I desperately want to get this finished as quickly as possible and then forget about it. And ultimately, once this section with the canal and everything else is finished, some point in the distant future, then I'll probably think, well, that's one layout. Let's start layout number 2 with all we've learnt and do a different type of scene, maybe an urban scene or something like that. So anyway, without getting too distracted and without trying to plan and prepare myself for the second layout that I'll probably start in about 2050, it's obviously, that's an exaggeration. So thank you very much for watching, my friends. I will leave you again with a quick nod to the links in the description. You'll find obviously the train channel and all that sort of stuff, as well as links to my short books about life on a canal boat and goodness knows what else. Till the next time though, keep it loco worthy, keep it interesting, have a fantastic day, and of course, my friends, farewell.